Elon Musk seems to have as big an ego as Trump does. So I can't see it lasting long, but the damage or the consequences of it might last for a long time.
Yeah, I think they will. And it's one of, the question of who has the bigger ego, Donald Trump or Elon Musk, is a really it's a really difficult one to answer. Look, I think you're so right that those, billionaires, possibly soon to be trillionaires, have always been a huge part of American politics. They've always been right at the center. Just most of the time, they've been better about being quiet about it, and not so public like that. Musk is there and is able to be there because those structures are already in place. It's like so many things with Trump. This is not new. It's just exactly as you said. It's turbocharged. Musk is a wild one. I think because you're right. He is kind of apparently at the center of things and ready to effectively dismantle a lot of the agencies and departments of the federal government so that they can't, deliver what government is supposed to deliver, even in the fairly inadequate way that the American system has been delivering. And of course, what that will do is then further undermine faith in the ability of the state to deliver things for people to make their lives better, which then further reinforces, the political arguments and persuasion of people like Musk and Trump. So you get kind of sucked into this vicious cycle, which again is entirely the point. I think, Musk, I'm sort of in two minds with Musk because I think it's also entirely possible that he is going to encounter a kind of political resistance to what he's trying to do that he's just never encountered before. He's always worked for business where you can walk in, especially in the United States, and just do whatever you want. He can fire whoever he wants without any effective guardrails. He hasn't worked with, and this is not a slide on public servants, he hasn't worked with public servants before who understand how systems of power work and how to use, regulations to, I guess, push back quietly on what Musk might try to do, or, be very effective at saying, yes, sure, like we'll do that, and then not do it at all. Like public servants are very good at that. And I don't think he is emotionally prepared for that kind of resistance. So how he reacts to that, I think, will be really important to watch. But I think it's also it's at the same time, this is what I mean about being in two minds. It's easy to underestimate him because he is so cringe. Like he's so embarrassing, and says the most ridiculous things. But then his politics is also terrifying. Like, to go back to that, what the media was calling a Nazi-style salute that he did twice at that post-inauguration rally for Donald Trump. The media then kind of goes into this frenzy about, like, did he mean it? Did he mean to do white supremacy? Like, of course he did. All you have to do is look through his Twitter feed and the things he's said in the last several years, which are clearly clear indications of his white supremacist politics that he now wants to extend, literally out from planet Earth to Mars. Like he sees himself as this kind of white civilizational messiah, and how that, like the scale of that ego might clash with Trump when Trump decides, that going to Mars is a stupid idea and he doesn't care about it anymore, will be pretty epic. And exactly as you say, what is the damage going to be from that clash? What is the fallout going to be from that clash? Not to mention, all the things that Musk is going to do in those federal government agencies and departments.
And I also wonder, like, how he's going to go encountering, because he seems much more like, I guess if I would distinguish it this way, it would be a lot of other billionaires, not all of them obviously, but just seem interested in like removing competition and making as much money as possible, right? Whereas Musk seems much more interested in the ideological fight. Like he's in there for those reasons, and he's not necessarily motivated by a profit motive, even though he's obviously making squillions of dollars hand over fist. But you talked about the public service, but I wonder too, like American allies in Europe and elsewhere must be worried about how X has been weaponized in a political sense, and, that willingness to interfere, not just for business sake, but just to, I guess, stir shit,
Mm.
essentially, seems to distinguish him a bit from the others. Obviously, we've always had people like the Koch brothers and things trying to accomplish these agendas in the background, but he's very brazen about it. Do you think we might see more pushback from allies and I guess the international community trying to contain his damage to the United States as much as possible?
I mean, I think other leaders are really worried, rightly, about what he's going to do because he's already kind of sticking his nose into national politics in Germany, in the UK, for example. But I think it's also, I guess, as I was saying before, it's, or maybe even to contradict myself, it's possible to overestimate his power there. He does have a huge amount of influence in, directing the news cycle. He just has to tweet about UK politics or whatever, and everybody kind of goes into a complete tears. But it is also possible to push back against that kind of interference. Europe and the European Union in particular has been quite good at, well, relatively good at regulating those kind of tech companies and information and money as well. And there's no reason that they can't do that. Musk is really powerful. He does have a lot of influence, but he's also one guy and he's not that rich relative to the entire European Union, for example. So it is entirely possible to push back on him. And he's not that complicated a guy either. It's possible to kind of provoke him and get him to say and do stupid things so people don't take him as seriously. So my hope is that people will push back, and that certainly an Australian government might push back when he almost inevitably starts talking about the Australian federal election. So it'll be very interesting to see how the rest of the world kind of deals with this super weird guy.